So what are the 5 whiskey YouTube channels that you should be watching? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to the Bourbon Retriever, and today we are talking about 5 whiskey YouTube channels that I am currently watching. There are a ton of channels out there. It was really hard to make this list 5. I feel like this list could have been 10, 20, 30, even 50 names long, maybe even different categories of names. If you're enjoying this type of content and you want to see more content, hit that like button or comment down below. I'm going to keep track of how well this video does. If it does pretty well, I'll think about making other list videos of other YouTube channels, maybe YouTube channels under 1,000, maybe the best women YouTubers. I don't know, there's tons of different lists you can do. So if this is something you're interested in, let me know. So these names are in no particular order. It's not ranking 1 through 5. But the first channel I'm gonna start with actually has the least amount of subscribers of all the channels I'm gonna talk to you about. And I'm surprised that it has the least number of subscribers because of the quality of content they're putting out, and it is WhiskeyLand. They do some of the best content regarding vlogging. Now, there are many different styles of vlogging out there. Some people are doing hunting videos, which are all over YouTube. Some try and do interviews, traveling, stuff like that. But WhiskeyLand does the best version of this that makes it feel like you're watching a movie. Their footage, along with some B-roll, music, editing, slow motion, all the stuff they do in the background that you don't even think about, makes it feel like a quality movie. But it's not just the editing, which I am envious of and would love to talk to them to learn any tips they can give to me on that front, because I think they do the best in the game. It is mostly the content, which is amazing. To me, half the fun with bourbon is the story and history behind them, and that is what WhiskeyLand is covering. They're going out across the country and talking to people in the industry in every state of America. I think at least every state, or maybe they're trying, I'm not exactly sure, but they're talking to different distilleries, bartenders, just everyone that is in the industry that has a fun, cool story to tell. And I just love how they mix together the footage of the local area to make you feel like you're there, along with actual interviews of distillers or other people on the ground, mending them together, and it's just a great, fun viewing experience. If you have not checked them out, go and hit them and subscribe to them, because they are just doing some of the best vlogging in the game. Okay, the next channel I'm going to talk about is Drums and Dram. Cam probably has the closest palate, at least what I've found so far on YouTube, to my palate. Typically when he likes a bourbon, I like it. Typically when he doesn't like bourbon, I'm not the biggest fan. So that's pretty much the main reason I watch him. He also has some of the best tasting notes in the game, at least to me. Maybe that's the reason our palates line up so much well, was when he mentions a note, I can more often not find that note. Whereas when other people on YouTube talk about bourbons, a lot of times when they mention certain notes, I just don't get those notes. But the main reason I mentioned Cam from Drums and Drams is if you are watching people on YouTube or other sources to figure out what type of bourbons to buy, you really need to find someone that closely aligns with your palate. Watch a couple of videos, see if you agree with them or not, and then once you find a channel or two that aligns with your palate, watch them for reviews on bottles to buy. Otherwise, you know, someone may very much well love whatever whiskey they're drinking, but if you traditionally don't align with their palate, if you buy, chances are you may not like it. So if you can find someone that you align with your palate with, it's more often than not their recommendations will be better suited for you. Okay, the next channel I'm going to talk about on this list is Stuff and Whiskey. I'm bringing them up because I just love the content they do on blinds. If you haven't checked out their content before, what they do is they pour a bunch of bottles into sample jars, put them back in a box, do a random generator, and then pull them out, and that way they can drink the bottles double blind. They don't know what's in the blind, and they don't know what bottle's in each glass. So what's really cool about their blinds is they'll do allocated versus non-allocated. So that way it can help you know, should you just go ahead and buy the bottle on the shelf that's easily accessible, or should you spend the man hours and money chasing down some of these harder to get bottles? Are they that much better? Sometimes they're not even better, sometimes they're worse. And so that type of content is really helpful for the community because it takes all the bias away from the bottle, especially if you spend a lot of money, or if you spend a lot of time chasing down a bottle, you're gonna have that inherent biases that it's probably gonna be better because you spent all that time and money. But taking that away and drinking them blind is really the only way that you will know. And I have to give Josh a shout out. I've never met Josh personally and I don't know him, but when I first started my YouTube channel, I reached out to several creators out there to try and get their advice on lighting, mics, starting a merch shop, all these different things that you do in the background that you don't really think about when you're starting a YouTube channel. And Josh has been very patient and kind in answering every single email, every single question, every single follow-up question, and I just can't thank him enough. One last thing I'll talk about Stuff and Whiskey before I move on is I love their dynamics. So you have Josh, who is the more experienced whiskey drinker, and then you have Erin, who's more the novice drinker. She still enjoys whiskey and she knows different types of bottles, but Josh is definitely the one who's more in the weeds and the more nerdish about it. And what I like about having that dynamic is you can, if you're someone who's not really into whiskey, you can kind of follow along Erin in her journey, and you guys can both learn about whiskey together. Or if you're someone who is extremely nerdy about whiskey, you can also follow along with Josh. So they have both those personalities there helping two different demographics of the YouTube community, drawing them in, and I think it's a nice ride for everyone across the spectrum. Okay, the next channel I'm going to talk about is Whiskey Row / Beyond the Row. They're two different channels run by a husband and wife duo, David and Jamie. They're a great couple, fun content they're putting out. Definitely go check them out. But the main reason I'm talking about them today is I highly recommend you try and find a channel that is local to yourself. There's a couple reasons why you should do that. One is oftentimes these YouTube channels will do local meetups with their community. And if you live close by, you have a better chance of being able to go to those meetups. That way you can meet people in the community, build friendships. Not everyone can get every bottle, so it's great to make these friendships in the community where you can share pours, and oftentimes they can help you find bottles that you've been looking for. They can tell you certain liquor stores that might have it, help you learn about the local liquor system. Every state is different about how they allocate and distribute hard to find bottles, so those are the type of shares to meet people, try interesting pours. In addition, local YouTubers are more likely to cover bottles in your area. They're going to know what the allocation is like. They can give you better recommendations on bottles that you can't get in your area versus the allocated ones. And they're also more likely to do reviews on maybe local distilleries in your area. So they're just going to be all around a better resource for you. I'm going to go and throw in an honorable mention channel, and it is Drew P. Whiskey. I don't officially have him on the list because he's not really making content anymore. He's kind of moving on in his life. He has a kid that's getting older, his family life. In addition, I know it can be a little harder to get allocated bottles where he lives, so he hasn't been able to put out as much content in that front too. But I think he has some of the best demeanor, inviting you in to a nice cozy environment. And I just loved a lot of his older content telling about the history of whiskey, about different distilleries, different bottles. And it was one of the first channels that got me personally into whiskey. I was fascinated with the history of bourbon, and he had a lot of great information on that. Okay, before I get into the final channel on my list, if you're enjoying this content, hit that like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss any content going forward. In addition, if you want to join the local community that I am growing here on the Bourbon Retriever, go ahead and check out my Discord and my Patreon. Okay, the last channel we're going to talk about today is the Bourbon Junkies. And the reason I talk about Dan and Sean from the Bourbon Junkies is they just always seem to have fun. I think a lot of people lose track of that in their whiskey journey. Either it turns into like more of a job where they're trying to chase down every allocated bottle in the world and maybe turn it into a side hustle flip business. Maybe they just get more bummed out when they can't get cool bottles. I've seen some people just turn super pretentious into whiskey, and at the end of the day, whiskey is more a vehicle to sit down and hang out with your friends and just have a good time and relax. And every time Dan and John put out content, do a live stream, they are just sitting back, cracking jokes, and you feel like you're hanging out with them in the room with them. One example of this is some content that Bourbon Junkies used to put out, and it was called Pour Guesses. They don't do it anymore, but they do have a playlist on their channel, so you can go back and watch all the old Pour Guesses videos. But basically what it was is Ricky would pour a bottle blind for both of them. They would both drink it, guess on different spectrums, whether it be age, proof, distillery, bottle. I forget maybe what else they guessed on, but they would guess on it blind. 9 times out of 10, they were way off. What I love about Pour Guesses is it just showed them having fun, enjoying themselves, not taking themselves too seriously, and a little bit of humility when more often than not, they did not get it right. If you have not seen any of those Pour Guesses, definitely go out and check out that playlist. You will not be disappointed. So those are the 5 whiskey channels that I am currently watching. Leave a comment down below of what whiskey channels that you're watching that I missed, especially if they're a small channel. I'm always trying to find new content out there. But if you're enjoying this content, before you head out, make sure you check out this video or this one. And until next time, cheers.